Welcome back from the short break. Remember, we are with David Sempala, and this is the Raw Mind Talk, where we deconstruct life principles, concepts into practical steps on how you can better up yourself or better up the people around you. And our discussion is very interesting. He has told us his movement towards sustainability, where he started from, where he saw a problem in Mukono, a place where he grew up, where his grandmother was. There was a forest, but after some time, 15 years back the road, he realized actually the forest was being eaten up. I don't know by who, but definitely you and me. It always catches up with us. And that has affected the way things are. He has told us all he did one was to get information to understand what was happening. Then he talked about sustainability and how he started his organization or company that was looking or targeting sustainability. And now he's going to tell us, because in his discussion, he talked about the person or the people responsible. And this is what we are going to build in this discussion. So David, as we go back, I want you now to bring the point home. Where did we go wrong, or where are we going wrong when it comes to climate, when it comes to sustainability?
So the whole, you date back this to history.
Yes.
And you may be looking at about 60, 70 years ago, when at the start of the Industrial Revolution. And I think that's about, I think around 1950. Because the world was practically doing very well before this element of industrialization came in. You realize that the world has been undergoing through different shifts. So we've had, there's a time when we are all hunter-gatherers. Our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. Then we shifted to farming. I don't know who discovered farming, but probably you'll research in the history. And we started farming. But then, in the middle of the farming revolution, because we were doing smallholder farming, so now Industrial Revolution came in, and I think Industrial Revolution came in largely about after the discovery of combustion engines and electricity. Those two things actually accelerated industrialization. And people, the world has been undergoing a lot of phases. Did you know that actually people first feared electricity to enter their houses when it was discovered? Because people thought that electricity is going to eliminate day and night. That they are not going to sleep. So the world has been undergoing a lot of shifts. So you can see Industrial Revolution, then we leave Industrial Revolution, we go into Information Revolution in the 80s, and computers come into accelerating thing. Then we come into social media revolution, digital, and now entering AI. We've entered AI in 2021, 2022, and probably we're getting into Internet of Things in the next few years. So the world has been undergoing a lot of shifts. But however, each of these shifts is good for something, but it also creates another problem. So now for sustainability and climate change issues, these things really happened around the start of Industrial Revolution. That farms, like a big set of land was cleared because tractors were discovered. Now our forefathers that were using hands could not use hands. Then we had big farmers, especially in areas like Canada. You studied those in geography in Canada, Canadian prairies, and then in Europe, and then in Africa. So industrialization is the biggest cause, because it meant that we had to discover oil and to discover
big chunks of land.
Clear big chunks of land, but also be able to process other things. Now, in the process of processing other things, we are actually putting out a lot of carbon dioxide in the air. Now, scientifically, I'm not a scientist, but the little science I know, which I studied, and I was taught by a professor called Professor Sanchez at Columbia University. There is, for us, we are under the earth, but above the earth, there's an ozone layer. And that ozone layer ideally protects us from the sun rays. So the more carbon dioxide we take into the atmosphere, it means that we are kind of exposing ourselves. We're becoming warmer. It's like being in a room like this. and then you come up with something that lights carbon dioxide and it's putting it out in this room. So the more you put it in this room and you are covered, you are not letting carbon dioxide go into the atmosphere, then it means that this place is going to become more warmer. That's exactly what we are doing. Now, we are doing it in many ways. We are doing it largely, as I told you, the origin has been industrialization, which is a good thing. It has given us jobs, it has powered our economies, but we are having a trouble by putting out a lot of carbon dioxide through industrialization. So it's industrialization. The second one is transportation. Yeah. Because you could imagine, you and I have been in all these foreign countries. We know the amount of, fumes that come out on a daily basis through transportation. Just come in Kampala here. Tell me how Kampala used to be in terms of carbon dioxide 10 years ago, 30 years ago, compared to the way it is now. So you have all these transportations, commuters in different cities around the world. So all these are burning fossil fuels. So burning fossil fuels is the number one reason why we have a lot of carbon dioxide in the air. And this is created by industrialization. It's created by our transport system, the clearing of land for agriculture, because we don't have now, our forest cover is actually coming down because we need food to feed more people. We need land for industries. We need land for parks. We need land for play areas. Most people in Kampala and Nigeria here have heard that, if you have empty land, I can create a playing field. But at that time, you are taking away the green cover. Yeah, so the more green cover you take away, the more damage you are creating and to the environment. So a combination of things, including what we do at national level. This business, if you wake up in the morning and you say, I am going to live in Tinda and I go and I shop at Garden City and I'm going to drive my car, you've contributed to climate change in a way, because you are fuming out things. So as the world is expanding in terms of industrialization, in terms of development, it's at a cost. So this is kind of a cost. So a sustainability agenda comes in to mitigate. It's not taking away the jobs. That's what some people don't understand. It's not coming to take away the jobs. It doesn't tell people to close the industry. But we want to speak to the industrialists to tell them that we can do things sustainably. We reduce, or you invest more into mitigation agendas, maybe green cover. If you're Coca-Cola in this world, come up with avenues to mitigate that. And I'm happy companies like Coca-Cola have come up with excellent ideas on plastics, because right now you can't easily find a plastic bottle anywhere in Kampala, because we have independent pickers, and these guys pick the plastics, they take them to Namambe for recycling. Those are the things which we need to give us, to tell as many industries as possible to start.
Now, you're talking about sustainability and comparing, and you've given a very in-depth history about how the world has transformed and moved from one stage to another. But when you look at the Africa's, statistically, the carbon emission in Africa, we still have a very, very, very low percentage. Now, my question I'm trying to think about is, if here our carbon emission is still very low, then why is it now that person out there wants to bring the agenda here? Like, we as Africans, where should we start from? Because somebody may say, those things are not ours, they're not African. They're for the white man, they're wherever he is. For us, we don't have that emission or damaging of the ozone layer, as you've said, to that bigger capacity, bigger extent. So how can we start, we as Africans, how can we start to mitigate those factors?
To mitigate. Yes, it's very true. Africa has a very low carbon emission footprint because of the levels. We still have a largely big green cover in Africa, though we are also losing, we are accelerating it. It's one thing to say we have a low emission footprint, but we are clearing 30 to 40% of our forests. For instance, in Uganda, Uganda has lost almost 40% of its forests, you know, for the last 40 years. So you could argue that, you know, the biggest emitters in the world is Africa, is actually USA and China. These are the biggest emitters. However, when you consume more of their products, technically it means you're contributing to that emission. So we're actually telling you, as an African person, that also practice good stuff. And the good stuff would be, you know, don't overconsume. Be a responsible consumer. Don't clear your forest. Don't clear your water streams. I mean, don't build in your wetlands and your swamps like we've done this in Kampala. So, and that's at policy level, at national level. But we could begin with you as an individual first. So one of the things you could do as an individual is to limit on your gas emissions at your home. For instance, use less charcoal. And how do you use less charcoal? By buying a clean cook stove. So that's the first thing. Because when you say you bought a good clean stove, it means that you're using less charcoal, and therefore you're not putting pressure on your own forest. So these are things which, some things you can do at home, some things you can do at community level, and some things you can do at national level. So at home, make sure drive if you must. Make sure you switch off that light if you don't need it. So for instance, there are many people who switch on the lights as is living in the bedroom. Lights are on. I know there are a few ladies who want to sleep when lights are on. So these are some of the simple steps you can do, like our topic said, the simple steps which you can do at home to ensure that you mitigate. But the bigger one is in cooking and driving if you don't have to. So now when you shift away from that, you can also, if you have a garden, even if you have a 50 by 100, make sure at your home there is a tree. Because a tree provides a totally different solution compared to a tent. And let me explain this, what you call mitigation and adaptation, because many people actually don't understand the difference. And I'm putting it in the local context. Now, mitigation at your home is to plant a tree that's going to give you a shade. I don't know whether you have ever sat under a shade, and you have also ever sat under a tent in the same compound. The feeling is totally different. The feeling
the heat is too much in the tent.
So now a tent is an adaptation measure. You're coming up with an adaptation measure. A tree is a mitigation measure, because you're doing it, the other one, you're doing it in a natural way. So you have guys, especially, there's a movement of people who believe that, you know, climate change is bound to happen anyway. So if we're bound to happen, let's, you know, maybe accelerate technologies so that we're able to mitigate. But I think we're supposed to do both. We're supposed to do both, mitigate, and at the same time adapt, come up with adaptive measures. So for locals here, like for instance in Uganda, we need to come up with adaptation measures. Things like we need to start a rainwater harvest program, which we can give to all farmers in Uganda so that they are able to maintain their crops, because climate change has a lot of impacts, and the bigger impact is actually on food, the way food is tested, the way the agricultural yield which we have. So to sum up on this question which you asked, the solution has to come from like 3 different approaches. One is at home, at individual level. Second one, it could be at policy level. And policy could be, if you are a CEO of an industry, it's important you come up with ESG strategies to ensure that you care about the environment. You come up with policies that are not going to damage the environment. So if you don't pollute into the lake, because thousands of people who you claim are your customers, who you love so much, are surviving on that
that
lake.
lake, yeah.
So please don't pollute into the lake. Come up with a way you can treat water or you can treat pollutants. You understand? And if you're at a government level, you know, you need to come up with policies that favor sustainability. So for instance, if you say we are in Chira and you're a mayor of Chira, like my friend Mutebe, who is the mayor of Chira, your role is to say, okay, can I design to ensure that all the roads in Chira have trees on either side? Can I make a policy to ensure that everyone in who has a 50 by 100, you are able to plant two trees in your plot of land? So if you're a cultural leader like a Katikilo of Buganda said that when you're coming for introduction and birthday ceremonies, please come with the 2 seedlings. No, these are the policies which we needed to come up to ensure that we get the solutions which we want.
All right, before we go for a short break, I'd want to deconstruct what I've understood from this discussion. One, David says there are 3 aspects on how we can sustain our environment. The first says it starts with you, from your homestead. 1, focus on electricity. If we come to brushing and showering, many of us leave the tap moving as we brush, as we shower. Those are the small things that contribute. 1, electricity. 2, starts from a household. How do you manage those basic things at home? Plant a tree. You know, he has given us examples here in Buganda. If it's a birthday, if it's a wedding, we have to come with 2 trees. That is the way we build the sustainability of the environment. And finally, he talked about government and other international organizations. And I think when you're talking about the international organizations, I remember the polluter pay principle, where if you are responsible for polluting, then you're also responsible for paying. And that can also come into to help Africa and other regional integrations or continents to have the sustainability mindset in all they do. Please don't go away. In the second episode, in our third episode, we shall come back now to deconstruct. We sit in hotels, in ACs, we travel for these international meetings on sustainability and climate change. But our mindset and understanding is that we are trying to think for the other person, muntu wa wansi, who even does not get the information. So how can we build this mindset from these meetings, marry them into our daily for this person to understand?
Absolutely.
Please don't go away.
Absolutely.